Can you think of a guy that did? I'm trying to think of, the guys who are relaxed, right? Who sometimes even get accused of being too relaxed. I think of Manny Ramirez, right? Who, famously in 2007 says, yeah, if we lose tomorrow, no big deal, right? Or we'll just go home and we'll get him next year. People are like, what? And then they go on to sweep the Cleveland Indians at that point and not lose again the rest of the year. But are there the opposite? Are there guys who did care, quote unquote, too much, who end up figuring that out as they get older?
Yeah, probably. I'm sure there are. I first thought about Dustin Pedroia, who really struggled when he got to the big leagues, but he was just uber confident. I don't think he ever doubted himself when the results were bad. So that's another guy who's maybe cut from a little bit of a different cloth. Matt Williams was one of those guys. I mean, he had a terrible start to his big league career, had a lot of expectations on him. Was sort of an introverted type of guy, really didn't like the spotlight, didn't really respond well when things went badly. But again, like Jarred, he was young. He was 21, 22 when he got to the big leagues. That's the other thing, too. I mean, we're not talking about somebody in their mid-20s. I mean, he's still growing, probably even physically, but certainly emotionally. So probably Matt Williams is the one I think comes to mind, where a guy just failed right out of the box and, had to go backward to go forward. And the classic example, obviously, is Roy Halladay, who went all the way down to A-ball. I mean, couldn't get anybody out, but he had to actually kind of reteach himself how to throw a baseball, completely changed his mechanics, and got himself in a really good place with the help of Harvey Dorfman, a sports psychologist. But that was a major turnaround.
Why does age seem to matter so much in baseball? Why is it so challenging for younger players to make their mark as opposed to other sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been spoiled in recent years because we've seen people like Trout and Harper and Julio and Fernando Tatis and Ronald Acuna Jr. And there's just so many guys who seem to hit the ground running at 21, 22. They're the pure exceptions. And growth in baseball is certainly not linear. I mean, there's definitely a roller coaster effect to improvement. And it's a good question about the age. I think it has a lot to do with repetitions. Now, I think amateur baseball has changed a lot, and Jarred certainly played a lot of high-quality amateur baseball, but you can only get so many repetitions as a player to get yourself better, so it takes time. You have to fail, as you said, to really succeed, and it's hard to shorten that learning curve. Now, I think the game has done better in terms of shortening that learning curve because you can play high-quality baseball a lot when you're younger, so you see better competition. But it's a good point that, even the best players tend to go through this learning curve where they're going to have to put in 2, 3, 4 years in the minor leagues before they become established big leaguers.
Yeah, and obviously the mental aspect of it. I found myself thinking as I was reading your article, and I've thought about this a little bit before, that physical, mental, and emotional are three kind of different categories that all seem to come together. And in Kelenic's case, I find myself thinking that he's obviously got the physical. There's no doubt about that. I wonder on the challenges he's had, are they more on the mental sort of thinking through the game side of it or the emotional regulation side of it?
Well, I think from a baseball point of view, the hardest thing right now to me, the great separator, is identifying breaking pitches and being able to make what they call good swing decisions. When I started out covering baseball, the biggest jump was velocity. You didn't see elite velocity until you got to the big leagues, and pitchers would challenge you right away to see if you could hit 95 plus, or back in the day, it was probably 93 plus. And now, because it's become such a game predicated on spin, where fastballs now are actually thrown a minority of the time, the biggest separator is, can you stay off breaking balls? Because the vast majority of breaking balls are not in the strike zone. They present in the zone and come out of the zone. So the guys who can identify those as pitches they cannot hit or shouldn't hit, because you'll be back in the minor leagues if you keep chasing breaking balls out of the zone, those guys are the ones who succeed. And I think that's the biggest leap now to make when you're talking about guys who are successful in the minors and trying to establish themselves in the big leagues. You see so much spin, and you have to recognize, that's a pitch I have to stay off of, or that's actually a strike breaking ball, and I can hit that pitch. So swing decisions, I think, from a baseball point of view, is probably his biggest challenge right now. I think what he's done with his setup and swing, he's probably better equipped this year, I would think, to handle velocity and catch up to that, which was a problem last year. But probably the emotional side of it, yes, I think you're right. And I think that's why I think the expectations lowered. the role they've carved out for him, or, with Pollock there, he doesn't have to see the tough left-handers. He's got a little bit more of a runway here to get his feet on the ground and have success early, which is going to be the key to his season.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at his season last year, the way he struggled early and then trying to find something on the big league level that works, that's really hard to do. Hopefully he's got something that's a little more sustainable.